This is Marc Tobias with Richard Shehady in Pittsburgh. Richard is a fourth-generation rug merchant with an incredible inventory, one of the top rug merchants in the United States with Oriental carpets. So, Richard, you know that I interviewed your colleague in Kusadasi, Turkey, Remzi Sari.
Yes.
And I want to continue that discussion to talk about, first of all, the carpet business is incredibly complicated.
Yes, it is.
There's a lot you need to know.
Much. I'm still learning at this stage of the game.
And you're fourth generation.
I'm fourth generation.
First of all, a lot of tourists think they're going to get a good deal when they're in Turkey, when they're traveling in the Orient and buying Oriental rugs.
Sure they are, because they're at the source. They feel they're at the manufacturers of handmade carpets in the world.
So is that really true? That they're going to get a good deal?
No, they're overpaying when they're overseas because they do not have the knowledge.
And this is a big problem.
It's a major problem.
So you've read the article that I've written.
Yes, I have.
What do you need to accentuate it to drive home the point to consumers that buying Oriental carpets, unless you're really dealing with a reputable dealer and you really know what you're doing, you can really get hurt?
Well, sure, you can get hurt. A lot of the times they feel that they're buying a handmade carpet in Turkey, that they're saving a lot of money because they're buying it from the factory in the bazaar, and it's like first hand versus coming into the States where it goes through second and third hand. No, I just, it's impossible to know what you're buying overseas. A lot of the product they inflate to 200-300% margins to make you feel like you're getting a steal, and you're not. The bottom line is you're being made a fool out of at the end of the day, and that's the truth.
Okay, so what are the critical factors? I've tried to lay out some of the ways carpets are constructed.
Yeah, sure.
That you can look for.
There's different weaves.
Okay, so let's talk first of all about knot density.
Mm-hmm.
The way carpets are made is the cotton, the silk is tied.
Right.
Yes?
It's all handmade. Every knot is tied, and depending on how and where they get the material from determines the quality of the carpet. And then, of course, the higher the knot count, the more labor, the more time it's going to take to weave this carpet. If you put all carpets in at the same level of in quality of wool, cotton, and dye, naturally, if you're going to weave a knot count of 80 knots,
that's not very good.
It's not very good. But the materials are good, so that's okay. But the price will indicate that. And then when you get into the higher knot counts, 300-400 knot counts, now you're getting into a true investment.
And
That's where you'll see that.
If you turn the carpets over.
Yes.
So you want to look at the backside for knot
Yes.
counts, obviously.
Yes.
So you can actually count the knots if
To
you
the
really
square
want to
inch.
do that.
When
per
we
square
talk
inch.
80 and 200, 300, 400 knots, we're talking square inch.
And the best carpets are silk?
Yeah, that's the most money when you get into a great silk carpet. Sure.
Followed by wool. And let's talk about wool.
Wool's very good, depending on what time of the year that they shear the animal, what part of the body it comes off of, how he's being fed. All this comes into the quality of the wool, and then you can machine spin or hand spun wool, where they hand spin the wool themselves on a spinning wheel versus going through a machine.
And what about machine-made carpets? I know there's a lot of that being done now, and China's in the market now.
The machine-made carpet is more of a disposable rug. You're going to use it for a couple years and toss it. Very few of them last more than 10, 12 years. The problem comes with maintenance, servicing of the rug.
Okay, and let's talk about dyes.
Yeah, dyes is vegetable dye. And then there's synthetic dye, chrome dyes.
Okay.
Chrome dyes are usually the Swiss dye that they manufacture themselves, where the vegetable dye is taken from plants and roots from trees and vegetables, and then they bake it and cook it outside, and that's the vegetable dye. That's the natural dyes.
Which are the best?
The vegetable dyes are the best because a rug won't fade from sunlight, it will soften.
So how can a consumer walks into your shop, which is huge here in Pittsburgh?
In today's world, it's very tough to tell the difference with vegetable and hand-spun wool because over the last 15, 20 years, we've been able to chemically wash carpets after completion of weaving and shearing them down to give the appearance of a vegetable dye.
Okay.
So it's very difficult to tell the difference.
So
When the rug is soft, let me complete this, Mark. When the
Okay.
rug is a soft look, it's very difficult to tell. And the best way to show you is when the rug is very sharp and the clarity's there, more times than not, and very vibrant, it's going to be from a chrome dye, a synthetic dye. When the rug is a little softer in look, like these types of things here.
Okay.
These are all vegetable dyed and hand-spun wool. Where you get into this type of rug is a chrome dye
Okay.
that's hanging on the wall.
So
It's a softer look, you can tell. We can tell, the experts. Then there's the rugs that are chemically washed.
and that means what?
It means that it's been put through a special type of finishing with chemicals, acids, to soften the look of the rug because it's very garish and strong on completion. So therefore, to market this type of rug, we need to chemically wash them to quiet the dyes, to get a softer look. And there are merchants out there all over the world, not just Turkey, that will use these types of wash to fool the consumer.
So if they look good, they fool a consumer.
They fool consumer
That's the trick.
by they're romancing and telling the buyer that it's a vegetable dye.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. It's a synthetic dye, which what will happen then through sunlight, it will bleach the carpet and it will totally fade the rug. Where in old antique carpets, for instance, that are using vegetable dye, you'll see that it's maintained its colors and its dyes. It hasn't faded. It hasn't changed at all.
So basically what you're saying is, first of all, don't buy a carpet overseas.
Don't buy a carpet overseas because, again, a lot of these Turkish carpets that people are buying when they're in Turkey, they hop off the cruise. The guy takes them to the bazaar.
The guy that's getting a kickback.
Yeah, the guy who's getting a kickback, I was going to get to that.
Yeah.
But he takes you to the bazaar and he introduces you to the owner of the shop. And they're telling you that every rug is woven in Turkey when 80% of their inventory is woven in India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan.
Because it's cheaper to weave them.
Because it's
As you
cheaper.
farther east you go, the labor costs are lower.
The labor cost is lower. Yes, this is true. Very good, Mark.
So don't buy a carpet in Turkey. Is everybody in the chain getting paid off?
Yes.
Everybody.
Everybody in the chain's getting paid off. The owner of the ship, the guy that's taking you there, everybody's getting paid off. And here's what else they'll do in Turkey. The Turks are famous for this move. They get all your information, and then all
customs.
of a sudden they'll call you and tell you when you get back home that they're traveling in America. They brought a whole shipment of rugs in. They'll call you and ask you to call your friends and see if we could get together and have a party, a rug showing at your home.
Right.
Get 25 of your friends over. Now they're really going to take you off.
Mm-hmm.
They're so well known for this. You won't believe it. They think they're calling a private person. They even call me.
Well, cruise ships. Cruise ships list, I wrote about it. Cruise ships list featured trusted merchants in their brochures. That if you shop there, you can trust these people.
Then I would ask the cruise ship that if you get back to America and if you're not happy, if they'll buy the rug back off of you.
Yeah, I did some interviews.
Yes.
And every shop that I interviewed that was in one of these featured brochures, they're all paying kickbacks.
Every single shop.
Yeah. So that means they have to jack up the price so that they can cover what they have to pay the cruise lines, to the tour operators, everybody.
And not even the fact that they're paying them, they're jacking up the price because they know
You're a tourist.
you're a tourist. You have no knowledge of this business. You have no idea what you're buying. You feel that since you're at the source, that you're actually saving money and you're paying twice the price.
So if you could, in summary, the top 5 scams that you need to look out for. I'm in Kusadasi, Turkey. Not at Remzi Sari's place, but I'm at Kusadasi, Turkey, and I'm looking to buy a carpet. I just walked off a cruise ship.
Okay.
Okay. Other than your advice, don't buy the carpet.
The scams
Yeah.
is that it's inflated 300 to 400% margins. That's number one. Number two, when they start serving you their tea and telling you how much it's going to cost you in America to buy this type of rug, that's all a lie. The scam, from the moment you cross their threshold, the scam has begun.
With the tea.
With the tea. And the pagers. And they'll even fan you if it's a little hot.
Well, of course.
Yeah, as you know.
Yeah,
You've
of
been
course.
there many
I've been
times,
there many
haven't
times.
you?
Yeah, many times.
Yeah.
So what else does the consumer? Let's say you really want to buy a carpet.
Then buy it where you live. Buy it in America. And if you are going to buy a carpet while you're away, for a memory,
Right.
a trip to remember for the rest of your life with
That
your
you
husband,
spend all this money that the
Don't
carpet fades when you get home.
don't spend over $700.
Really?
Look at it as a night out that you're having a great dinner. And I'm dead serious with that. You go out for the evening, don't spend over $750. Because I'll give you a for instance. Gentleman just got back from Turkey. He came into my store. He brought me this magnificent Shehady silk carpet
Okay.
that he bought when he was in Turkey 2 weeks ago. He brought it in for me to appraise it for him. I opened it up. It was not silk. It was mercerized cotton.
What does
which
that
is
mean?
polished cotton to look like a silk
Okay.
carpet.
A sheen.
A sheen. The sheen was there.
Yep.
And it looked like a very expensive silk Shehady.
Yep.
And he asked me to appraise it for him. He paid $10,000 for this carpet. The man was in his 80s. The dealer took advantage of him. I told him the rug was worth $15 a square foot. It was a 4x6. It's $360 there. I asked the guy if he still had the gentleman's, well, I should say thief, if he
Yeah.
still had his phone number.
Right.
And he said yes, he had brought it with him.
Right.
I personally looked at the number and called the guy. It was still early enough in the day that
Right.
the time change. It was 9:30 in the morning. And I asked to speak to the owner of the shop. He got on the phone. And I mentioned the gentleman's name. I gave them the size of the rug, the date, all the information on the invoice.
Right.
And how can you do this? How can you sleep at night knowing that you charge this elderly man $10,000 for a carpet that isn't worth $700?
And his answer?
Let me check for you, Mr. Shehady. Please hold. Went back to his files. Probably didn't do anything. Didn't check anything.
Right.
He knew it. Got back on the phone and he said, we'll take it off of his American Express. The rug was mislabeled. The salesperson didn't know
Right.
that it was mislabeled. And I said, well, that's good. That's nice to know that you're
Right.
going to take it off his American Express. What would you like me to do with this carpet? He said, why don't you give it to the gentleman and tell him that he can have that
Right.
at no charge. And the reason why is because it would have cost him more money to ship the rug back to
course.
Turkey
Yeah.
than what the rug is worth.
And the carpet dealers in Turkey say they have certificates, and they're certified by the government to be carpet dealers. What does that mean?
It doesn't mean anything. because they're selling, again, back to what we started this conversation with, this interview, was they're actually buying their rugs from Pakistan and they're selling them as Turkish rugs. So the certificate means nothing.
Which is fraud.
Which is fraud.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's fraud. I mean, I have a very good client in West Virginia, can't give you his name, of course, who bought a Turkish Kazakh. There's a rug Turkish Kars,
Okay.
which use geometric patterns, but there's no such rug as a Turkish Kazakh.
Okay.
Kazakh is from the Caucasus,
Right.
Russia. So, therefore, he called it a Turkish Kazakh. The gentleman brought it in for me to look at it, and I showed him the exact same type of rug that was woven in Pakistan, and I told David that he bought a Pakistan Kazakh weave
Right.
to look like a old Caucasian rug, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
So again, back to the government endorsing all this, I think it's all fraud.
Okay. And so let's say we buy a carpet in America. Mm-hmm. How do you know you're dealing with somebody legitimate in America?
You can always take it back to the gentleman, and if he's a reputable dealer, he's not going to do these things. Believe me, there's crooks everywhere in the world. There are people out there will scam and do whatever they need to do to make a dollar. But at least you have somebody who can appraise it for you locally outside of the gentleman you bought the rug from.
And what's the price range of your carpets, from a few thousand to a few hundred thousand?
Now, my price ranges for room-size carpet
Yeah.
can range anywhere from $2,500 to hundreds of thousands. Even, I don't want to say the amount. I have a 4x6 that General Grant actually owned.
I have seen it.
It's a very rare carpet. It's an important piece.
And you sell carpets that are 200 years old, 300 years
Yeah,
old.
300 years old. I have pieces in there that are 300 years old.
So the rule is be really careful what you're buying.
Be very careful what you're buying.
Very careful who you're dealing with.
Who you're dealing with. And when you're in Turkey, my advice to you is don't spend over $750. An amount that you can live with and not feel bad if you've been scammed.
If it turns out to be nothing.
If it turns out to be nothing, you didn't get hurt. You still have a beautiful memory.
Richard, thank you very much.
And thank you.
Pleasure.